Today, I'm excited to share with you our latest innovation, the FracTran. Allison Transmission's commitment to the oil and gas market has led to the development of the FracTran, a clean sheet, purpose-built transmission created specifically for hydraulic fracturing. Allison leveraged our long, successful history in the global oil and gas market, along with 2 years of voice of customer input, where we interviewed OEMs, end users, and distributors to gather the wants and needs of the market, which we successfully incorporated into the FracTran. The results of our voice of customer interviews told us that you want a product that will meet or exceed your current and future production requirements. It had to have high reliability, a low total cost of ownership, industry-leading performance, and features that matter. With the FracTran, we've delivered all of this and more. The FracTran is longer, wider, and taller than our current 9832 product and weighs 2,700 pounds more. Increased component size along with cutting-edge technology have created a product with industry-leading service. With the first service life of 20,000 hours plus at 2,600 horsepower and a second life designed for no hard part replacements, we've created a solution with a low rebuild cost, which helps drive the lowest total cost of ownership. Our voice of customer feedback told us the things that you want. Now let's walk through those features. The FracTran comes with a spline drive and an integrated damper on the input. That allows a very easy engine-to-transmission integration, unlike our past products, which used flex plates where you had to rotate the engine several times to line the converter bolts. With the spline drive, it just slips right in and it's much easier to use. The FracTran also comes with 2 adapter housings so that you can make with either single-aught or double-aught flywheel housings on your engine. The nice thing about the adapter housings is that no matter which one you pick, the transmission length remains the same. To ensure greater uptime, we've repositioned the top center PTO to locations which are outboard on the transmission. We have a top side and a bottom side location, both of which have a cavity inside, which should you have a PTO failure, will catch the debris so that it doesn't get into the transmission. We have an 8-bolt PTO pad on the sides, along with an SAE-C and SAE-B pad on the back side. We've also added bolt holes so that you can use PTO mounting brackets and attach them to the transmission to make installation easier. You can see that the TCM is mounted on the transmission and isn't remote mounted. There are a couple reasons we did that. Typically, if you had a transmission fail in the field, what would happen was we would get the transmission back, but the TCM may not come back with the unit. So we were not able to get the history of that unit to determine what had happened with it. With the TCM mounted on the transmission now, we have a better chance of getting that data back so we can determine what happened that caused the issue. Also with the FracTran, we will have a telematics device which will come with the transmission. That will allow you to get real-time data on the unit or historical data, which can help you understand how your operators are using the transmission and also help you diagnose any issues that you may be having in the field. With our new TCM, which is CEC 6 controls, we have much faster processors and we have the ability to do much more diagnostic work and much more prognostic work. Some of the things that we're allowed to do now with the TCM are that we can do automatic pressure testing, we can do rapid warm-up with the transmission, and we can also do the transmission output braking. We have a new converter out temperature sensor which allows us to maintain the converter out temperature for that rapid warm-up feature. We have 4 speed sensors on the transmission, and those sensors have actually been moved down to the side now so that operators won't damage those sensors. They are Hall effect sensors compared to our previous sensors, which were VR sensors. The Hall effect sensors are much more accurate. So for example, if you have a 1/4 degree rotation, we will see that now. Where in the past with the VR sensors, it took about 30 RPMs of rotation before you would actually see movement with that sensor. The FracTran has a much larger sump. It's a 42-gallon sump compared to the 9832, which has a 21-gallon sump. With the increased oil capacity, you have more cooler flow and cooler oil temperatures for the product. Also, you'll see that we have added code 61 cooler connections, which make the cooler lines easier to connect. And then we also have dual fill and drain ports on the transmission to make your maintenance much easier. One feature that I didn't mention previously was that we have real-time oil level monitoring with the transmission. So that oil level monitoring can take place whether in neutral or in drive and doesn't require any operator interaction. So we monitor that oil level, and if it's too high or too low, we'll set a fault code to notify your operators that something is going on. This data is also held within the TCM, so you can look back over time to see if the maintenance on the transmission has been kept up and the oil level has been set at the correct level. The FracTran has an industry-leading service life of 20,000 hours plus at 2,600 horsepower, and that requires no hard part replacements when you go to the second life. Some of the things that we've done to help keep those costs down on rebuilds and to keep your total cost of ownership low are that we've used common clutches and known bearings. That allows for commonality in parts and keeps the pricing low. The transmission will come with an available DIN 315 or DIN 350 flange on the output. The nice thing about the new flange is that we've created enough room so that you can put the mounting bolts in from the backside. The flange will also have a shoulder on it that will allow that bolt to be held in place so that you can actually attach your drive shaft with one wrench only instead of having to use two to do that. We have two output seed sensors. One is for our use and one is for your use. This can be used to see just the rotation of the output shaft, or you can use it to look at output shaft speed. One other nice thing that we've done, we took the voice of our customers and they told us that they wanted to have the data tag in another location. So if you look at a current product, it is on the bottom side of the transmission, which in frac rigs can be really hard to see. We've moved it up to the top in a location where it's much easier to see and much easier to get to. Unlike previous products, which had externally mounted valve bodies, if you had a leak, the oil would go to the outside of the transmission. With the new enclosed valve body here on the FracTran, should you have a valve body leak, the oil will actually drain back down into the sump, so you have no oil loss if that should take place. The other nice thing about the enclosed valve body is that we have a solenoid cover on top that makes easy access to get in and change your solenoids should you need to, or do diagnostic work. This can be done without seeping oil to the outside of the transmission and can be done without getting dust and dirt into the valve body and or the solenoid body. The nice thing also about the valve body, this enclosed valve body, is it has a really large plate on here which can be lifted so that you can get inside and do maintenance work, but it's very lightweight so your technician can easily remove this plate to get inside. At the bottom of this enclosed valve body, we have dedicated clutch diagnostic ports. They are set up with taps already on them so that if you need to do diagnostic clutch pressure check testing, you can easily connect your diagnostic pressure test equipment and see what the clutches are doing across there. The casting of the transmission also has the clutch location molded into it so you can easily tell which tap is for which clutch. All of the previous external hoses for oil supply have been cast into the transmission. Based on our customer feedback, we learned that they didn't like the external hoses on our past transmissions. They were easy to cut or could be cut by operators in the field. They could break and they became a maintenance item on the transmission. To alleviate that, we've completely cast in those oil passages into the transmission so they can't be cut and won't leak. It makes for a much cleaner assembly installation, much less maintenance, and much better flow of oil through the transmission. FracTran also comes with a dual circuit oil pump on it. One is for the main circuit and one is for the lubrication circuit. That allows us to pump much more oil flow through the transmission. It allows cooler oil flow and allows dedicated circuits to both sides. The converter lockup valve on the FracTran is now a modulated lockup. Unlike our past lockups assembly, which were an on-off type switch, the modulation allows a much smoother converter to lockup operation in the product. And it's adaptive, so it changes over time depending on what's going on with pressure and flow within the transmission. The filter assembly has a delta P sensor, and this is common with all of our products. With the FracTran, what we've done is we're actually going to look at not only the filter plugging, which we monitor with the delta P sensor, but we're also going to be looking at the pressure before and after the filter. What this allows you to do is it will allow you to see that filter blockage coming over time so that you can proactively change that filter so that you can do that prior to the unit being in the field and on stage. It allows a very quick, easy way to get that done instead of having to shut down the unit should the filter be plugged. As you can see, voice of the customer was integral in the development of the FracTran. So why should you choose FracTran? With the design to meet the harsh demands of oil and gas fields throughout the world, FracTran is purpose-built for hydraulic fracturing, inspired by real customers to maximize productivity with high reliability and powerful performance under pressure.